welcome back to Wrestling Travel presents the Lockdown Sessions. Today, very special guest, Mr. Chucky Bates. Chucky, how are you doing today?
Oh, I'm feeling beautiful. How about you?
Doing well. You prefer Chucky over everything, I guess?
Okay.
Yep, okay. All right. So, Chucky, welcome to Lockdown Sessions. We have been running this since WrestleMania, just trying to catch up with everybody, what they've been up to during this pandemic and lockdown. You've been locked down, but recently, Brew City was able to have a show. We'll talk to that a little bit later, but can you tell all the fine folks out there, how long have you been in the business?
It's a little different than others may put it, because I have been currently working in this business for almost 3 years, 2.5. But I had to take extra time to train because of a minor injury that I had during my first year of training. But combined, yeah, it's pretty much about 3 years I've been in this business. I've learned so much.
So now you've been in for 3 years. I know you wrestle for Brew City right now. Is that who broke you in, the Thumper's Den Academy?
Yep. Frankie, Bruiser, and Angel Armani, they all trained me very well. And yeah, they continue to train me, so I'm very grateful for that.
I always love talking about Angel Armani. Angel Armani doesn't look a day older than he did when I first met him, but the guy's been around forever and always wants to help everybody else out. Will always take time to show you a little bit of something, and that's what I love about the guy.
Yeah, I agree. He always tries to just bring out the best in anybody he tries to work with.
So, how many matches would you say you got under your belt now? Roughly.
I haven't really been keeping that much score on it, but I would say like I'm about close to 200 matches because I've been working matches ever since I debuted, and it hasn't really stopped.
That's awesome. That's what I asked Doc that same question. You guys are from down there, Brew City. I'll say almost everywhere in Wisconsin. Guys are able to work multiple shows per weekend and get out there, and that just says a lot about the state of professional wrestling here in Wisconsin. That you've been in the business for 3 years. 200 matches is nothing to really sneeze at when you look at it on the local level. So when you were a young Chucky Bates, what who first you turned the TV on, and which wrestler first catches your attention? I want to know how you got the bug, how you decided to get in this crazy business.
So my story is kind of different than others, as I probably put it earlier. For a good portion of my life, I didn't know wrestling even existed, and that's a cold hard fact that I don't like to admit. But the first wrestler I ever saw, my uncle, he was a big wrestling fan, turned me on to a very old Crusher match, and I had no idea what the heck I was watching, and it was so crazy. But then I started getting into watching like the stuff that was on TV, and the first wrestler that I ever watched that I was a big fan of was admittedly John Cena. I mean, I loved his passion. I loved his physique. I just loved everything he did in the ring. I mean, even though people say repetitive, I mean, I loved what he could do. I mean, like, he was great on the mic. He was iconic. He did so much for the business when I was watching, and I couldn't turn away.
Now, I'm much older, but I will agree with you on John Cena. I don't care what anybody says about him. He's great for business. Um, I got an opportunity to meet John Cena in, gosh, 2014, I think it was. Um, we were shooting the breeze at a bar in Manhattan, and I just said, "Hey, can I get a picture?" You know, he was off with an elbow injury. What you're talking about his physique. I just went to put my hand on his shoulder for the picture, and I always tell everybody, dude, it was like touching like a statue of like granite. The guy works out, the guy's jacked up, and he's just sitting there at a bar on injury, and I was like, holy jeez. I mean, guys can say what they want about Cena, but he's one of those girls want to be with him and guys want to be him guys. Like who wouldn't want to be John Cena? And he's at least to me super nice, very charismatic. Loved getting a chance to talk to him. Asked him about doing another rap album. Had I had one or two more beers in him, I would have offered to collaborate. So now wrestling for Brew City with Frank, you know, Frankie's a decent, not decent, but Frankie's a well-known name in the state, been around forever, and getting in to train with Angel Armani. So you're in there with a couple of really good, solid vets, solid teachers. So that's got to make you feel real good, and getting 200 matches under your belt. When was your so was your first match 3 years ago, or was that kind of when you started training?
No, my first match that I count in front of a crowd was June 2nd of 2018. And I was 17 at the time, and it was a crazy day. I didn't have everything that I needed at the time, because going out there, I was beyond nervous. And even though some guys would say you had it easy, like you were out there and you were in a tag match with like three other guys, you weren't on your own, and it didn't stop the nerves. But I got out there, we performed. At the time, it was me and at the time his name was Manservant Baxter. We were a tag team at the time, and we just had so much fun. It was the two of us versus the Caribbean Connection again, and it was just crazy. I mean, like there was so many people there. It was just a fair show, and so many people came out and watched us wrestle. And we didn't put on the best match of the night, but we put on a really great match, and I got so much confidence after that one match. That's basically what I would say started and kickstart my career.
Yeah, getting that first one under your belt, yeah, the nerves. You have the nerves, you know, all the way to the end before that match, just getting out in front of the crowd. So, but kind of nice coming out afterwards and getting a few compliments from the locker room makes it feel better. Even though, you know, everybody knows. Even though if you know you messed a spot up and everybody knows it, people going, hey, you know, we fix that next time. But you know, concentrate on a couple of the good things. So, yeah, and even if you are in a tag team match with three other guys, that first match is ridiculously the huge weight on your shoulders. And that was at a fair show, huh?
It was at a fair show. I believe it was called the Fireman's Picnic in Newburgh, Wisconsin.
Cool.
It was about an hour, 2 hour drive away from my house, but it was pretty much worth it because the venue was nice. It was a fair. Like it wasn't just like a typical fair show where you just go outside and you work in front of a crowd. It was a fair. So after the match was done, after the show was done, we tore down, and some of us stuck around and got some popcorn and all sorts of other carnival stuff that they had there.
Yeah, different world now without any. We know now in Wisconsin, as we tape this right now on the 29th of June, that the fairs are all shut down due to the virus. So
Yeah.
stuff like that we take for granted, didn't we, Chucky?
Yeah.
going to the fair and whatever. Oh yeah, I'll go. And now look at here we got this summer and Wisconsin. We've got it better than most right
Oh
now
yeah.
because we're kind of opening up a little bit. But man, what I wouldn't give to be going to a fair tonight and watching a Bucks playoff game later on, and everything just seemed to stop. So, which brings me to the next question: during this shutdown time, what have you been doing to stay busy and keep yourself in the game of wrestling? Or what did you, I guess, because we are.
Uh, I During this pandemic, I've spent a lot of time like in my basement working out because before the pandemic came, I got myself some weights. I've been um, I've been working out in my basement. I've been practicing like my rolls as much as I can, and well, I look up on the internet and I just find like all these push-up challenges. Like you do a certain amount a day, and at the end of the week, you lead up into like 100 push-ups, and the next week you do a different amount, and you're like 250 push-ups. That's basically what I've been keeping myself busy on, and if that was just when it started. After about a month, Frankie reopened the den, and we took our time with it. We weren't just like, oh, we're gonna open the den and everybody comes back in. No, we scheduled it a little bit where just a few of us would come in so we can get a little bit of ring rust out because we all knew that Frankie wasn't gonna keep the show down forever. So he felt like we needed to get back in the ring and just get our ring rust up, and didn't care if we had to do it like once a month or even if it was just like once a week, or we just had to be careful about it. That's basically just what we did. Other than that, I've just been working.
Um, jump on the internet and watch some old matches at all?
Oh yeah,
Who do
plenty
you,
of
who do you go to? Who's your go-to besides Cena? I know you got those 5 moves down, but who else are you looking at?
them. Yeah. No. I mean, yes, I was a big fan of Cena, but as as I grew with the business, I started realizing that as much of a great person and a great character and an icon he may be, I can't look at him for inspiration for wrestling for myself. So I, yes, I looked up some old wrestling, and probably the one character I always look at, just because whether I'm looking at him for wrestling or I'm looking at him for like character work, I always end up going to Kane. The 1999, 2001 Kane. Just because like I hate to admit it, but everybody that grew up around that time or anybody that looks back now, they'll always watch like Stone Cold Steve Austin and the Dudleys and The Rock and The Undertaker. And I think The Undertaker is great, but just no one back then entertained me more than Kane. Just because I was a big fan of horror movies, and Kane legit looked like something out of a horror movie, and 9 times out of 10 fans would just love him for it, and it's just crazy. So yeah, Kane's
Actually,
my
he did a horror movie. I never saw it, but have you seen his horror movie?
yeah, the See No Evil.
How would you rate it on a scale out of your 5-star rating? How is it as a horror movie?
It's difficult for me to say this because like like I said, I like him as a wrestler, and even as he was working with WWE, you could tell he was a great actor. I mean, whether he was a heel, face, or whatever, he was a great actor one way or the other. But the movie didn't live up to some of the other things that I've seen in the horror genre. So I'd I'd give Kane's movie about a 3.5. That's the best I can do.
That's pretty respectable, though. Now, I got to be honest with you. I don't know much about the Chucky Bates character. If you had to describe to me or the fans watching this, now remember we're out of the United Kingdom, so a lot of us haven't seen too much Wisconsin wrestling. But what's the Chucky Bates character, if you could describe him for us?
Well, if you don't mind, I'm gonna tell you a little story on how this came out. I won't overcomplicate it. It's pretty short. So I'm training at the den, and Bruiser he was teaching us all sorts of like chaining techniques and whatnot. And so what I do, like both Frankie and Bruiser told me, hey, you're gonna work as a heel for the first time. And I'm just like, okay, what am I gonna do? I can't just go out there and be like, oh, that guy, I don't like him, or I put a headlock on and say, oh, I'm so great. Nah, I've seen people do that all the time, and I'm just like, I gotta do something different. And at the time, I was a really big Gotham fan. I've always been a big Batman fan, but back then, I just started watching Gotham, and I had just gotten done watching the first episode that introduced the Joker, or what was his name? Like I don't know. It doesn't matter. He was just so great putting on that gimmick that I'm just like, let's try it. I'm just thinking this in my head. Let's do this. So we lock up, put a headlock on whoever I was working, and I just go, and Bruce is just like, do that again. And I'm just like, okay. we advanced it over time, but at the time it was nothing more than a laugh. And the next week, Frankie's telling me, put on a straitjacket. And just from there, that's where it clicked. Every time you saw me walk out to the ring, or anytime I got in the ring, you'd always see me laughing. You'd always see me trying to act like a psychopath. Like I looked up everything I could find, like whether it's horror movie related or wrestling related. Like I find characters such as Norman Bates from Psycho, obviously. Uh, I would look up like Texas Chainsaw Massacre and a lot of Joker. I would look up a lot of Joker. Uh, but it would end up being more of a Hannibal Lecter kind of deal, but with more Joker reaction. Because when I debuted, like I would be the guy, this psychopath in the straitjacket, trying to get at anything that moves, trying to swat at flies. I'm a guy who wants to make everybody believe that I'm a psychopath and I'm not a force to be reckoned with. No, I'm laughing. I can't stop laughing. That's Chucky. That's the best way I can put it. He's a complete psychopath, and he's demented. Of all things, he's demented.
Dude, that's great. That laugh, that maniacal laugh, that character, that's fan. I can see what Frankie and Bruiser saw. That's awesome. So that's been the did you debut that character at the fair?
Yes.
That's
yes.
what you've been since. That's awesome.
Yes, I didn't ever think I was gonna debut as a psychopath or as a demented character, but after a while performing with it, and yes, I debuted as it, but after a while just working as my character, I can't ever see myself work a match and not be Chucky. I mean, it's gonna happen at some point, but I can't see it. I love my character. I've just fallen in love with it during the time that I played it.
And as you fall in love with it, obviously the character gets deeper and has a bigger base. I know fans love a heel. Did you notice, are the fans coming along for the ride now a little more with Chucky Bates?
Oh yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I love watching. I remember when I was training down. Well, I was still training because I started in Minneapolis, but down in Milwaukee, watching Judge Jesse come out and just berate the crowd. I love that. I love, You love the heels, and that was late '90s. That was cool anyway. But I would love to. I could imagine,
Oh yeah,
first seeing Chucky Bates and then going the next time at a show, go, hey, wait till you check this guy out with the crazy laugh. That's awesome.
yeah, definitely. I 100% agree.
Now, what are the Chucky Bates promo like? Obviously, they got the laugh in there, but do you have the kind of quiet, like the ebb and flow of bring it up with the laughing down with the psycho stuff?
Yeah, because you can't. You got to think of it from a Joker perspective. As much as he laughs so much for his gimmick, like you never see him laugh 24/7. As much as that's his thing, he doesn't do that every second of the day. I mean, you'll see him put on a monologue, and then he'll finish just going, "That's the joke." Or you'll see like Jack Nicholson, he'll just be like, "You can introduce me as," and as you can see, that's kind of how I play Chucky out. I always start off with a "Oh, you're back," and it just kicks from there. It it's a lot of fun, but as you might have guessed, like every time I have to put on the character, I'm always at a lack of breath, just because you're laughing so much. It's air draining, but I've learned to cope with it, and I can work around it, and it's just so much fun. I can't stop. Once I start, I can't stop.
The laugh is outstanding. So kind of based on the Joker. Now here's an off the wall question. I'm sure you've answered it before. Um, Cinematic history here. Who's your favorite Joker? Who's the best Joker of all time? Or is it too hard?
No, it's not that. It's everybody keeps telling me that Heath Ledger is the greatest Joker of all time, and honestly, I can't complain. There's nothing wrong with Heath Ledger taking the title as best Joker. I mean, he put on a memorable performance that will be remembered for years, and his was live action. It was crazy. He didn't have that much screen time as Joaquin Phoenix had, but he just put on such a great performance that everybody just remembers him solely for that role. But in my opinion, just because like you can put me in front of pictures, you can put me in movies, or you can look up video games, but mostly just if I ever read a comic that has Batman and the Joker in it, or you see the Joker just putting out a big monologue, I can't imagine a voice of him other than Mark Hamill, just because his voice is too iconic. I've watched him from the old animated series to his work in like Arkham City, and even when he was doing some live action stuff, it was just never anyone else. You can ask me my favorite Joker, I won't even hesitate. Gonna be it's gonna be Mark Hamill.
Cool, man. Yeah, I was thinking you'd go cinematic. Yeah, Heath Ledger took that. Just the way he had the makeup and went crazy in that. I think that's why. I think that's where people get into the whole like, okay, that's the Joker, because as you can see, like it wasn't the perfectly painted face, and that's kind of where they went. But yeah, Mark Hamill, that's fantastic. That's I have not seen that show for many years, and yeah, he does great. It's I remember it's kind of one of those things when you remember where you were, or you just remember being shocked when they're like, "Oh yeah, that's Luke Skywalker doing the Joker's voice." What?
Yeah.
That's
Oh
crazy,
man. It was a complete mind fart. As soon as I found out he was the Joker and he was Luke Skywalker, I was just like, what?
man.
But makes sense now. I saw the voices. I'm just like, it makes sense.
So we've got this long time off from the pandemic, and as you know, we're out of the United Kingdom. The United Kingdom has not had wrestling come back to it. Many states have not had pro wrestling back yet. But here in Wisconsin, we're one of the few places where pro wrestling has made a comeback this June. Was it June 20th, the last show for you guys, Brew City?
Yes, June 20th was our last show.
That was the big return. Tell me what that was like.
Oh, it was great. We had a big crowd, a lot of fans there, and they were hungry for some wrestling. It was like they had been starving this whole pandemic, and we finally fed them the entertainment they wanted and the stuff they needed when we got back in the ring. I mean, we all felt great getting back in. I mean, there's no lie about that. I mean, all of us at Brew City getting back in the ring again, it was just fantastic. And the fans, they just loved it too. I mean, there was no other way you could basically just put it. Everybody was just happy that night that wrestling was finally back.
I spoke with Frankie DeFalco prior to your show coming about the precautions that he was taking. I went to WPW this weekend. What I love about the sport and I love about the promotions is people are taking this seriously. Frankie wasn't messing around. Hey, we're going to do forehead checks. We're going to have waivers. We're going to have masks and social. Nobody wants to be the promotion that screws everything up for everybody else. So, and I imagine the fans were on the edges of their seat.
Yep. I mean, that's Frankie for you. I mean, he wants to put on a great show, no doubt, but he's not going to do it at the expense of others. I mean, of all things, he's not going to do that.
All right. How many fans can you?
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
No, sorry. Zoom is very easy to talk over each other, and I'm a loudmouth. That's why I do these things.
Yeah.
How many fans did you guys get to show up and wherever you had it? Do you have a rough idea?
There was so many. I mean, Frank said that like he sold out ringside within like the first couple weeks that he put the ringside tickets out online. It was so backed up. Like the seats were full, and I could see from beyond the ring that there were people standing behind the seats, like a lot of people. And I think there was roughly about 200, 300 people there, maybe less, maybe more. I couldn't tell exactly. I didn't get a chance to count them. But yeah,
It was not disappointing.
Oh no, it was not. It was fantastic.
No, that's awesome because I know you guys, the boys, chomping at the bit to go, and I knew. I was hoping, and I hoped correctly that the fans were chomping at the bit to see some live entertainment, to see pro wrestling. Now, Wisconsin, not just down in Milwaukee, in Brew City, but I would say from the top to bottom, this state, and that's part of the reason why I do the lockdown sessions. I'm a homer. I love Wisconsin, Minnesota wrestling, but it's not just because I'm a homer, but I can ask it. But top to bottom, we got some talent in this state, and we've got great places to train. So we're going to see a lot more out of people in Wisconsin. It's just, somebody at your young startup in the career, you realize, just how fortunate you are to kind of be in this state.
I'm grateful for all the wrestling we have, and I'm grateful that I was able to start as early as I could. Because I know some guys wait all the way till they're like maybe in the mid 20s, 30s before they start, and some guys start later. I just felt like I needed to start as soon as possible, and then the sooner I pick up, the better chance I might have with having a very long career. And right now, it seems like it's paying off.
Yeah, you learn a lot during that before you have your first match, but it's almost like you're learning just as much. Now you're filling in a lot of the cracks as you move on, and you continue to learn in this great sport of ours, I think, right until the day you no longer lace them up. Who have you now? Brew City brings in some of the quote unquote names. Who have you had the opportunity to be on a show with some of the bigger names besides the Beer City Bruiser and Mr. Frank DeFalco?
Yeah, I ended up throwing down with them both at once. It was not fun. Well, it was fun for them, not for me. All right. Some of the big names that I've been able to work with in the ring. I mean, I didn't really work against him, but I got to work alongside the great Kevin Sullivan at one point. That was a lot of fun. He was the manager of one of my tag partners, Tyler Sullivan, and that's kind of where it hit off. Yeah. Other than that name, I've worked in the ring with Rhino. Rhino, yeah, former WWE, current Impact star Rhino. I worked him last year during the state fair, and he gave me the gore. that was a fun day. And the other big name that I was able to work, and this is the last one I've got for now. I mean, I have no doubt I'll wrestle big names again in the near future, but this is the last one on my list. I worked in January earlier this year. Gangrel. I worked Gangrel in a match at Brew City at Rise to Honor, and that was a really fun one. If I'm gonna say that, it was really fun. And the reason I liked it so much was because unlike my match with Rhino, which I still think we had lots of fun doing that, but unlike my match with Rhino, my match with Gangrel felt like a bit of a battle of the gimmicks because you got me, the demented psychopath, and then you got the vampire, and it's just like, what's gonna happen? So out of the ordinary, and I'm just like, yeah, we're gonna have fun, and we totally did.
Now, these guys got to love the laugh as well, right? Some of these vets, these names, because every time you do the laugh, I don't know whether you noticed it or not. You're popping me each time. Like you put a smile on my face. That laugh is that's quite the gimmick there. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
Now you're young to have a bucket list because I imagine it's going to be a mile long. But throw out
Probably.
Kane, throw out Cena, throw out but who are some of the? Give me just a handful of names that you're hoping to step into the ring with that are, you know, you can have a mix of local that you haven't stepped it in with, but give me a couple other quote unquote names as well that you're like, hey, before it's all said and done, love to step in the ring with. And well, obviously, we know you'd love to step in the ring with Cena or Kane, but let's hear maybe some
All right.
obscure ones.
Yeah, 'cause I've got some names here from the indie scene as well.
Yeah.
I've got a friend of mine. His name is Juan Hernandez, the Prince of Lucha. We have never worked a match together, and I've seen all the acrobatics he's capable of doing, and like just his acrobatics mixed with my character. I mean, we could just have such a fun match. I mean, I don't care much for like the continuity. I mean, I'm gonna put on an entertaining match one way or the other, but we just gotta work it. I mean, it's not about busting your entire body just to do one spot that'll make the fans go yay. It's about entertaining the fans with a whole match. They're just like yay, yeah. But that's one on the list. Just to name a few. Juan Hernandez, Cujo, good buddy of mine, Cujo. He and I have wanted to work for a bit, and we've never gotten in the ring together. So I'm hoping I get to work him. I know he's working for AEW, but just because like I said, I had basically a gimmick match with Gangrel. I would love to see what I could do in the ring against Woken Matt Hardy. just because, I mean, he plays that character so well, and I would just love to see what the two of us could put on in the ring. It would just be crazy. No pun intended.
That would be a great one, yeah.
The last person on my list is another indie guy. I worked him in a battle royale once, but we never really worked in a full match. Garrison Creed. He works basically like a army man gimmick, but he's no stranger to the wrestling biz. He's a phenomenal worker, and just I would love to put on a match against him. He's the last person on my list.
We should book that one. Garrison Creed, former Lockdown Sessions. The dude's a beast. Just saw him work this weekend. He's been doing nothing but hitting the weights since the pandemic. He looks great. Got to see Juan Hernandez in action as well this past weekend. Juan's going to do a Lockdown session with us. So that's some great names you got right there.
Great to hear.
Yeah, you better. Old Creed's been hitting the weights. I tell you what. The dude was big anyway. Well, yeah, what a beast! And he was in there tearing it up this weekend in a gauntlet match that I got to see, which was nice. In closing here, we're a travel company first and foremost. We bring people from all over the world to their favorite wrestling events, be it Wrestle Kingdom in Tokyo, WrestleMania 37 in Los Angeles, which, yes, it's still going to happen. We're going to get back to normal. We're going to have fans. Now, you have a relatively young career right now, so I imagine that you have not you probably still wrestle in the state. Have you gotten a chance to get outside of the state of Wisconsin? Go to Illinois or Minnesota or anything yet?
Yes, I haven't been to Minnesota yet, but I have worked a few matches in Chicago. Most of my matches have been relatively close. The furthest I've gone in Wisconsin was York County, but other than Wisconsin, I've worked in Chicago. That's the only other place I've got.
What would you like one day the world gets back to normal? Would you like to see Chucky Bates wrestling all over the world? Maybe come down to Manchester, United Kingdom, near the wrestling travel headquarters and do a match there. Wrestle down in Mexico City, hit the Tokyo. That's the dream, isn't it, brother?
Oh, yes, it is. Like Bruiser and Frankie always tell me, you can't stay in one place and hope to make it in this business. You got to get out there. And I've been held back a bit because, like you said, I'm young and I'm trying to figure some things out. But this pandemic has been a bit of a wake-up call. And when this whole thing is said and done, I'm going to try my absolute best to get out there, venture out, get to Chicago more, go to different states. I got a buddy of mine who wants me to try and work in Texas, so we might try that.
I actually think, Chucky, that you are, because of your age, that this pandemic is almost going to be more lucky when it's looked back upon for you in your career, because you've gotten a chance to, at a young age where many of us didn't realize, oh man, I missed this wrestling thing. I really miss it. I really need to work hard. It really is my passion, where you could have a chance to be off these few months from wrestling and go, you know what? But no, you got the bug. You still got the bug. So you're going to, I think you're going to, at a young age, always remember this time and realize, hey, I really missed it. I'm going to take advantage of every opportunity I can.
Oh, definitely.
Now, when is the next time that you're heading down to the Thumper's Den Academy?
To the Academy?
Yeah.
Looking like it might be Tuesday.
Well, we need a favor from you. I call out now. A lot of people ask me what my favorite wrestler is, just like I asked you. And my favorite wrestler has always been Greg Gagne. And I interviewed Frank DeFalco, and Frank says, I talk to Greg every, maybe twice a week. And I said, hey, maybe put in a good word for your old buddy Justin Clapper on the Lockdown sessions. And I've had nothing but radio silence from Frank since then. So I don't know. Maybe. Well, you know what? The bad news is maybe he said if you put in a good word to Greg Gagne for me, and Greg's like, I don't want anything to do with that, Weisenheimer. Maybe you better not ask him. But Chucky, we want to thank you. But before we go, what the sole purpose of doing this show is to get to know you a little better. I want the fans to get to know you now. You've been very polite, very cordial, but I know Chucky Bates, that character, is a little bit different. You're going to be a little bit wild. You're going to want to see him in a match. But if I'm a fan, how do I keep up with Chucky Bates? What are your social medias that the fans are able to follow? Do you have any merch for sale?
I am currently designing some more ideas for merch right now. And I don't have them up on Pro Wrestling Tees just yet. But if you follow me on my social medias, such as Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and I also have my own YouTube page. They're all Chucky Bates or Demented Chucky Bates. And you keep following me on those, and I will eventually have a link for Pro Wrestling Tees. You can buy my merch, whatever you want.
Awesome. My last question, may I ask you a favor?
Okay.
All right. Could we end this interview with a little Chucky Bates promo? I don't want to get you all winded, but you got to do it, dude.
All right. You want a Chucky Bates promo? Oh my God.
Yeah, a little. I just want to hear a little Chucky Bates, and I know the people will too.
You want a Chucky Bates promo? Here's a Chucky Bates promo for you. This has been an honor. No. I'm in the little interview. If you want to see more Chucky, you gotta come see me for real. It's not something to pass by. You want Chucky Bates, you look up Facebook, you look up Instagram, you look up Twitter. You've got everything you need. All things. You better follow me, because I'll find you. You will feed the insanity. Thank you, Justin. You want to Chucky up.